Hello, and thank you for engaging with this virtual training from the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty. Today we will be covering the first component of the Affirming Racial Equity tool, which is content integration. It is important to understand that within the larger framework of racial equity within Jefferson County Public Schools, the Affirming Racial Equity, or ARR, tool is one of the central resources available to JCPS employees seeking to ensure our schools are actively pursuing racially equitable education for all students. If you have already explored the ARR tool and the ARR tool guidebook, you will already be aware of the extensive utility of this tool. The ARR tool can be leveraged by all school faculty to enhance outcomes for Black and Brown students. It is important to note here that regular utilization of the ARR tool, especially in PLCs, supports the JCPS racial equity policy and the future vision for curriculum, instruction, assessment, and pedagogy. Although the JCPS racial equity policy outlines many expectations for the central office and larger district, several expectations are most readily influenced by classroom educators. In regards to diversity in curriculum, instruction, and assessment, there are specific expectations all schools, school leaders, and classroom educators, regardless of content area or grade level, are expected to pursue. In the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty, we strive to ensure that the mission and vision of the district lives in all areas, because we believe that in JCPS, racial equity is everyone's concern and should be a commitment made by all. While all components of the ARR tool address the JCPS racial equity pillar, the other two pillars of JCPS are supported by one half each of the ARR tool. Moreover, the ARR tool aligns with the ongoing work addressed throughout the JCPS 6 systems. These connections are not exhaustive, but are featured here to showcase the interconnectedness of the work being done within the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty. As previously mentioned, this virtual training is focused on the first component of the ARR tool, content integration. If you are still building fluency around the ARR tool, this is a timely space to pause and reflect, preferably with your PLC, on the various lesson descriptors listed here. What is content integration? Content integration challenges the educational experience of many educators. Most often, we teach in the manner in which we were taught. However, content integration demands a centering of the people of the global majority in all content areas and grade levels. It encourages teachers to move with ideas of community, empathy, and reflection in mind. Ultimately, it works to leverage student learning so that all students are given content-focused, interdisciplinary skill sets that allow them to address diverse communities and groups of people. Content integration invites in those stories that are frequently left out of our curriculum. When we think about K-12 settings, very often Black and Brown stories are left out and considered other. In understanding this, we leverage content integration to give all students both windows and mirrors into the lived experiences of others. Understand that stories, or text, applies to all content areas. When we are considering mathematics and science, understand that problem sets, graphs, data sets, all can be understood as a text telling a story. What does content integration look like? Content integration, again, can be seen in all content areas and grade levels. It occurs when lesson materials include diverse cultures, identities, and groups, so that the lived experiences of others is understood through content. Content integration occurs when lessons, tasks, and resources are culturally familiar and situated within equitable pedagogy. Content integration looks like resources and tasks that let students discuss issues of bias, oppression, prejudice, and stereotyping. It is important for content integration to be enacted that teachers understand their own identity, the identity of their students, and intersectionality as it exists in their classroom. It is important as educators that we do not negate or ignore age, ability, class, gender, education, ethnicity, language, location, nationality, race, religion, and/or sexuality in our content. If you are seeking ideas and examples of what this might look like, we encourage you to explore the Black Experience Teacher Institute and Team of Teachers for Equity lessons, which are in the JCPS Teacher Backpack. You can also find examples and additions to your lessons in the Simple Pantry. What are the do's and don'ts of content integration? Do engage in cross-content or interdisciplinary conversations with your PLCs as often as possible. Do grow your own understanding of the identities and cultures represented in your classroom. Do seek students' voice when determining tasks and resource connections. Do source affirming and representative materials. We encourage you to leverage the vast array of resources provided by the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty. Do not assume that content integration is specifically for ELA, humanities, social studies, or world languages. Again, all aspects of the R tool can be seen in all content areas and grade levels. Do not assume your content has no implications in regards to culture or identity. Be brave in exploring the ways in which your students can more deeply connect to your content. Do not include only surface-level examples of identity or culture. Do not showcase a cultural group of people in a denigrating, invalidating, or harmful manner. It's also important to note here that you should never leave out groups of people when you can make authentic connections to your content. Questions for PLCs to consider. Number 1. How will the instruction provided to students permit them to be actively anti-racist and break down systems of inequity? Number 2. How will our instruction move us closer to meeting the expectation of the district's racial equity policy and the school's racial equity plan? 3. How specifically does this component of the R tool, content integration, support the work of your content area?